A culinary horror story from the edge of human daring. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about something that will push the limits of even the most iron-stomached food lovers among you. If there's any creature on this planet known for its unrelenting omnivorous appetite, a kind of shovel-mouthed, bottomless pit of consumption, it's us, human beings. Our species has long been crowned the undisputed champion of culinary experimentation, willing to bite, chew, and swallow just about anything that walks, crawls, swims, or grows. Yet, even within our vast kingdom of taste, not every self-proclaimed gourmand or seasoned food connoisseur has the courage, the nerve, or the iron will to stomach what many have called the very nightmares of global gastronomy. In today's terrifying online tasting tour, we are going to plunge headfirst, virtually, into the twisted, grotesque, and fascinating world of the planet's most disturbing and bizarre dishes. And topping this menu of madness, standing proudly like a grotesque king upon a throne of disgust, is none other than a cheese, yes, cheese, called Kisumarzu. Known colloquially as maggot cheese, this legendary Italian delicacy doesn't just push boundaries, it detonates them. Let's peel back the curtain and dive into the nauseating origin of this revolting yet oddly revered dish. Deep in the rustic heart of Italy, where culinary traditions are as ancient as the stones on the roads, locals begin this cheese's horrifying journey with blocks of pecorino, a firm and salty sheep's milk cheese that's already a national treasure on its own. But the transformation that turns it into Kisumarzu requires something far more unholy, the deliberate infestation of the cheese by the larvae of the cheese fly, Pyophila casei. Yes, it's no accident. These maggots are introduced on purpose, left to squirm and burrow, breaking down the fats in the cheese through a process of advanced decomposition. The result? A soft, weeping, ammonia-laced cheese crawling with hundreds of translucent, wriggling larvae alive, very much alive. Due to this revolting metamorphosis and its extreme departure in texture and aroma from traditional pecorino, the Italians granted it its own name, Kisumarzu, which literally translates to rotten cheese. Over time, this nightmarish delicacy gained infamy not just across Italy but throughout Europe, whispered about in hushed, horrified awe. And yet, despite its heritage, Kisumarzu has been banned by the European Union for its flagrant violation of food hygiene standards. It has been classified as an illegal food product, contraband cheese, forbidden from legal markets since 2002. Italy itself placed its own restrictions on this unspeakable dairy abomination as far back as 1962. But even laws cannot crush tradition. Even bans cannot extinguish cultural pride. Despite its outlaw status, the production of Kisumarzu continues defiantly in the shadows, a black market delicacy whispered about in the alleyways of Sardinia. For this is where Kisumarzu was born, the fiercely autonomous island of Sardinia, floating like a jewel, or a curse, in the sun-drenched Mediterranean Sea. Here, amidst ancient hills and stubborn sheep, the maggot cheese lives on. And what does eating Kisumarzu feel like? Many who've dared to try it have reported sensations that linger like trauma. Some have gagged. Some have vomited violently. And some, the true daredevils, have returned for more. But the experience comes with a warning. You see, these maggots are not just passive guests on your plate. No, they leap. When disturbed, they can launch themselves from the cheese up to 15 centimeters into the air. That's why many locals eat it with their eyes squeezed shut or covered, not from fear, but for self-preservation. So, if you think you've tasted it all, if you believe no food can shake you, Kisumarzu is waiting. Not in restaurants. Not in stores. But hidden, crawling, alive, in the depths of Sardinia's soul. When cuisine crosses the line, the dark, daring world of unthinkable delicacies. When one's peace is shattered by an uninvited six-legged intruder, the most cathartic, and some might say, savage, method of retaliation in certain parts of the world is not a swift stomp or a shriek, but something far more primal, crushing it underfoot, mashing its twitching body with cold indifference, and then, astonishingly, spreading its remains atop a piece of bread like pâté. Yes, this is not fiction. This is a reality in parts of Asia, where the humble cockroach, affectionately dubbed tu quoang in Vietnam, shifts from reviled pest to revered protein source. To some, these creatures are the embodiment of horror, brown, winged, multi-legged nightmares that skitter across dark, damp corners of forgotten kitchen cabinets and moldy sewer drains. They carry with them a primal fear, capable of inducing a blood-chilling scream when they take sudden flight toward an unsuspecting soul. In Vietnam, many know too well the chaos that ensues when one appears, panic, slipper-throwing precision strikes, and the universally practiced art of the Chu Lai Phi Dep, the flying sandal technique passed down through generations like a sacred martial art. But in other Asian countries, particularly Thailand, China, and Cambodia, the narrative takes a drastic turn. In these regions, cockroaches are not merely tolerated, they are celebrated, served as crispy, savory delicacies that delight the brave-hearted and curious. In provinces like Shandong, Sichuan, and Yunnan in China, they are farmed, cleaned, cooked, and devoured with gusto. These insects are not just eaten, they are adored for their rich, protein-packed flesh, boasting a taste that is shockingly rich and unctuously crunchy. The culinary process is meticulous. First, the cockroaches are bred under controlled conditions, then carefully cleaned to remove any remnants of their former filth-ridden habitats. After that, they are plunged into hot oil and fried to a golden crisp. Some are coated in fish sauce or grilled to smoky perfection. Others are stir-fried with spices, tossed into salads, or dipped in tangy sauces. And if you can get past the visual, a mass of legs and antennae, it is said to be an unforgettable experience, both gastronomically and psychologically. But this is only the beginning. Journey northward to the icy expanse of Greenland, and you'll encounter a dish so outrageous, it borders on the mythological, kiviak. It is a culinary creation conceived by the Inuit people to endure the brutal Arctic winters. The preparation is a ritual of grim precision. A seal is hunted, its belly sliced open and its organs removed. Into this vacant cavity are stuffed between 300 to 500 small seabirds known as auks, whole feathers, beaks, claws, and all. The seal is then sewn shut, all air meticulously expelled, and its surface coated in thick layers of seal fat to block bacteria. The entire carcass is buried beneath heavy stones and left to ferment underground for a period ranging from 3 months to over a year. When the time comes to unearth the prize, it is not a scene for the faint of heart. The seal's rotting flesh is cut open to reveal the fermented birds, now oozing with a pungent aroma so intense it could cripple an unprepared nose. And yet, to the native Inuit, it is a feast. With deft hands, they pluck the fermented birds from the seal's body, strip them of their feathers, and consume them raw, no cooking, no garnish, no ceremony. The flavor is described as overwhelmingly strong, musky, and sour, enough to drive away all but the most daring diners. Even locals prefer to eat it outdoors, allowing the wind to carry away the overpowering stench. If that hasn't shaken your appetite yet, consider one last example from Zhejiang province, China, a delicacy that might sound like a prank to the uninitiated. Here, in the belief that it promotes good health and cures ailments, eggs are boiled not in water, but in the urine of young boys. The process is exact, urine is collected fresh, eggs are soaked and simmered in it for hours until the shells crack and the flavor seeps in. The result is an egg with a peculiar fragrance and flavor that is said to invigorate the body. Though the practice horrifies outsiders, it remains a cultural staple that persists through generations. So here lies the question, what defines food? Is it nourishment, tradition, necessity, or is it a test of courage? Around the world, people have embraced what others would consider unthinkable. From cockroach stir-fry to fermented birdseal hybrids to eggs steeped in human bodily fluids, one thing becomes clear: in the vast and varied landscape of global cuisine, the line between delicacy and disgust is razor-thin and wholly dependent on where you call home. In the vast culinary landscape of China, there exists a dish so haunting, so unfathomably bizarre, that it consistently earns a top spot on the list of the most horrifying traditional foods ever conceived by humankind. This ancient delicacy, known as boy urine eggs, literally translated as tong zi dan in Chinese, has a history spanning hundreds of years and can still be encountered today, steaming away on street corners, nestled among the stalls of traditional markets as if it were just another everyday snack. But what lies beneath this seemingly harmless name is a preparation method that shocks even the most adventurous eaters. The ingredients are deceptively simple: chicken eggs and the freshly collected urine of young boys who have not yet reached puberty. That's right. The urine, gathered from school toilets or directly donated by prepubescent boys, serves as the main cooking liquid for this notorious snack. First, the eggs are hard-boiled, their shells cracked delicately but left mostly intact to allow the strange marinade to seep inside. The water is discarded, and then the eggs are submerged into vats, literal tubs, of urine. This is not a one-time soak. The urine is replaced several times, and the eggs are slowly simmered over a low flame for hours, sometimes days, in what can only be described as a ritualistic infusion process. In some traditional versions, this fermentation can stretch on for weeks, ensuring that every trace of bland egginess is replaced by the pungent, ammonia-rich aroma of its bodily brine. And what of the flavor? Those brave enough to bite into this taboo treat describe a naturally salty tang with a peculiar musky aftertaste. Some say the egg carries a strange sourness, unlike any pickled product they've encountered. Others can barely finish a bite, overwhelmed by a stench so foul, so sulfuric and sour, that it induces gagging, retching, and a visceral reaction akin to nausea. For first-timers, the experience is unforgettable, often for all the wrong reasons. Yet China isn't the only nation with a taste for the extraordinary. In the windswept steppes of Mongolia, there exists a dish so brutal, so primitively savage in its preparation, that even the bravest meat-eaters have second thoughts. The dish is called budog or bug, depending on the dialect, a culinary horror crafted not in pots or pans, but within the very carcass of a freshly slaughtered animal. Traditionally made with goats or sheep, the process begins with a kill. But not just any slaughter. The creature is not butchered piece by piece as in modern kitchens. Instead, its bones and organs are removed from the inside, often while the animal is still conscious, by reaching down its throat with practiced hands and pulling out its innards in one horrific, excruciating extraction. This act alone is enough to provoke outrage from animal rights groups worldwide. But for the Mongolian herders, it's a method passed down for generations, one rooted in necessity and extreme conditions. Once the bones and organs have been removed, the empty husk of skin and muscle is transformed into a makeshift oven. Large stones, heated until glowing red over roaring flames, are stuffed into the hollow cavity along with the animal's own organs, potatoes, onions, and other aromatics. The carcass is then sewn shut with metal wire and the entire body is singed with open fire to burn off the fur. Strategic punctures are made in the skin to release pressure and prevent the grotesque bag of meat from exploding under the heat. The end result? A grotesque, ballooned creature roasted from the inside out. Once cooked, the carcass is sliced open, the hot stones removed and handed around like fortune-telling relics. The sizzling meat, dripping with rendered fat and still steaming, is devoured directly from the hide. A fatty broth pools inside the skin, a liquid some drink warm, straight from the source. And if you thought we had reached the peak of bizarre, brace yourself. In various parts of Asia, curious tourists are confronted with yet another jaw-dropping sight on the menu, a peculiar sea creature known in culinary circles as gable, but colloquially, and perhaps more famously, as the penis fish. Yes, that's its name, and yes, it looks exactly as you're imagining it. Technically a species of marine spoonworm, Eurychus unicinctus is soft, tubular, wriggling, and unmistakably phallic in shape. Found buried in mudflats, this creature is harvested and served fresh, often still wriggling on the plate, its fleshy pink body cut into bite-sized chunks. For the uninitiated, the experience can be more psychological than gustatory. The visual alone has sent many turning pale before they even pick up their chopsticks. Yet for those brave enough to taste it, the fish is said to have a chewy texture with a subtle sea flavor, often dipped in sesame oil and salt, or accompanied by a fiery chili paste to distract from the anatomical unease. Across the globe, food tells stories of heritage, of environment, of survival. But sometimes, it tells tales of extremes. These dishes, tong zi dan, budog, gable, aren't just meals. They're tests. Tests of curiosity. Tests of culture. And for many, tests of stomach strength. Along the rugged coastlines that stretch across South Korea, Japan, and northern China, a mysterious and peculiar creature makes its home in the murky embrace of mudflats and coastal marshes. These slippery, almost alien-like beings dwell in thick, sediment-rich waters, where they slither silently beneath the surface, feeding on small fish, tiny crabs, and drifting zooplankton. This creature is known as the gable, a sea worm with a startlingly suggestive appearance. Its glistening, gelatinous body, slippery to the touch and pinkish in hue, has earned it a reputation as one of the most blush-inducing delicacies in East Asia, evoking awkward giggles or shocked gasps from unsuspecting first-timers. Its uncanny resemblance to the male anatomy is enough to make even the boldest diner hesitate, especially women encountering it for the first time, their faces flushed with embarrassment as they prepare to take a bite. Yet behind this provocative exterior lies a cherished culinary tradition. To unlock its full potential, seafood vendors, masters of their salty craft, wash the gable in seawater, preserving its natural sweetness and enhancing its ocean-kissed flavor. After carefully removing the inner organs, they slice it into small, quivering segments, served raw in traditional fashion. The dish is then paired with chogochujang, a spicy sweet Korean dipping sauce made from red chili paste and vinegar and eaten alongside pungent, fermented kimchi. Due to the immense demand for this unusual delicacy, diners are almost always presented with the freshest possible specimen, often still twitching on the plate, rarely if ever served frozen. In Korea, the freshness is not just a preference, it's a necessity, a badge of authenticity. Crossing over to China, this same sea creature, known locally as kavan duok, takes on a different identity. Within the deeply historical world of Shandong cuisine, one of the oldest and most refined culinary traditions in the nation, with roots stretching back over 2 millennia, this marine oddity is elevated to the status of royalty. Rather than being consumed raw, it is commonly stir-fried with wild vegetables, allowing its naturally salty flavor to seep into every bite. Shandong cuisine, once served exclusively in the opulent halls of imperial courts, is known for its complexity and finesse, and kavan duok remains a revered ingredient in its repertoire, a creature as strange as it is prized. But strange seafood is not solely an Asian phenomenon. Half a world away, buried in the windswept traditions of Scandinavia, lies another culinary oddity, one that has earned global infamy not for its shape, but for its overpowering stench. Enter surströmming, fermented Baltic herring from Sweden, a dish so pungent, so violently aromatic, that it has been dubbed one of the most foul-smelling foods on earth. This traditional delicacy begins its transformation when fresh herring from the Baltic Sea are packed in lightly salted water and left to ferment for a minimum of 6 long, chemically volatile months. During this time, the gases created by the aggressive fermentation process swell the cans until they bulge ominously, pressurized time bombs waiting to be opened by either the brave or the foolish. Yet for all its fearsome reputation, surströmming does not spoil. The brine acts as a preservative, and the fish, though transformed beyond recognition, remains edible. The flavor? Intensely salty, sharply sour, and unmistakably rotten. It is traditionally served with flatbread, boiled potatoes, chives, and sour cream, which attempt to tame the beast within the tin. Wise Swedes know to open the can only outdoors, ideally at a safe distance, for the initial burst of gas is said to be capable of inducing retching in even the most hardened of stomachs. Tourists often approach it as a test of courage. Comparisons abound to rotten eggs, decomposed cheese, even open sewage. Visitors to Sweden's Museum of Disgusting Food report that nearly half become physically ill after cracking open a can of surströmming, the fumes alone enough to trigger gag reflexes. Those who dare to taste it often find themselves overwhelmed, instinctively spitting it out before the first chew is complete. And yet, for a select few, the horror transforms into fascination. If one can survive the initial sensory assault, the dish may reveal a strange, addictive charm. One bite becomes 2, and suddenly, this culinary nightmare becomes a guilty pleasure, an acquired taste with a powerfully bizarre allure. From Korea's squirming gable to Sweden's foul yet fascinating surströmming, these bizarre sea creatures challenge not only the palate but the imagination. They represent more than just sustenance, they are a daring journey into the world's most extreme flavors, a test of bravery, a ritual of culture, and a gateway to stories told through taste and tradition. Drop your chopsticks and prepare for terror, a gruesome culinary journey through Asia's most nightmare-inducing dishes. If you thought you had the stomach of steel, then brace yourself, because the culinary landscape of Asia holds secrets that can make even the bravest soul go pale, slam down their chopsticks, and bolt from the dining table. At the very top of this horror food pyramid sits a dish that has made even seasoned gourmands shudder in disbelief, the monstrous tuna eyeball, served in parts of China and Japan. Now, tuna as a fish is no stranger to fame, it's praised across the globe for its rich protein content, omega-3 fatty acids, and brain-boosting DHA. It's a pillar of healthy eating and the crown jewel of sushi culture. But what happens when we shift our gaze from the fillet to the eye, the massive, alien-like eye of a 50-kilogram deep-sea predator? We're not talking about the tiny fish eyes that pass unnoticed in a soup bowl. No, these are orbs the size of tennis balls, weighing up to 200 grams each, bulging with gelatinous fluid and surrounded by thick fatty tissue. When cooked and served whole, they elicit reactions ranging from horrified fascination to outright revulsion. In supermarkets across Japan and China, these eyes are casually sold, packaged like any other seafood, waiting for the curious or the fearless to take them home. Preparation is surprisingly simple, just a few minutes in boiling water, and it's ready to eat. But make no mistake, the experience is far from ordinary. The most palatable way to consume this ocular monstrosity, as advised by locals, is to gently remove the eye from the tuna's skull while keeping its fatty layer and gelatinous orb intact. And if you must try it fresh, raw, glistening, twitching with marine life essence, be sure to keep a bowl close by, because your gag reflex will likely stage a full-blown rebellion. And just when you think things can't get any more grotesque, we leap from the seas of Japan into the spider-filled fields of Cambodia, where another culinary test of courage awaits. Picture this, a heaping bowl filled to the brim with black tarantulas, deep-fried to a devilish crisp. Known locally as a beloved street snack, these eight-legged horrors are especially common in the province of Kampong, just a few hundred kilometers southeast of Siem Reap. To the unsuspecting traveler, this dish appears straight out of a nightmare: long, hairy legs, bulbous abdomens, and fangs curled in a final scream. Yet for locals, it's a delicacy, one with a crunchy texture and a nutty aroma, eerily similar to fried crab legs. But beware, the spider's abdomen often contains a gritty, grayish-brown paste formed from a stomach-churning blend of eggs and fecal matter. This, coupled with its natural juices, makes it a mental and physical challenge to swallow. Before hitting the hot oil, these tarantulas are marinated in a mixture of garlic, sugar, salt, MSG, and pepper. Some recipes even call for a light battering to achieve an extra crunch. Once golden and glistening, they are drained and dusted with more seasoning, then served, legs outstretched like blackened claws from the underworld. Stroll through the open-air markets of Skuan or surrounding regions and you'll witness the truly surreal: street vendors presiding over cauldrons bubbling with oil, while beside them, mounds of fried tarantulas sit ready for the brave. Locals recommend newcomers stick to the legs, relatively harmless and mild in flavor, before daring to venture into the spider's gut, where things get truly nauseating. But the terror doesn't end there. From the web, we now slither into the sea once again, this time to the bustling streets of South Korea, where the living, writhing delicacy known as sanachi takes the spotlight. Imagine ordering your meal and watching the chef pluck a small, live octopus straight from the tank. In seconds, the creature's limbs are severed and dressed with a light touch of sesame oil and seeds. But here's the twist: the tentacles are still moving, wriggling violently on the plate, as if refusing to die. This isn't a parlor trick. The octopus's nerve endings remain active long after dismemberment, and they respond to touch and temperature, sending the suckers into a chaotic, twitching frenzy. It's a dish as thrilling as it is dangerous. Diners are warned repeatedly to chew thoroughly and immediately. If not, the powerful suction cups might latch onto the inside of your throat or palate, potentially cutting off your air supply. Yes, this dish can kill you if you're not careful. For those unaccustomed to the eerie sensation of something crawling down their throat, this meal is often more than they bargained for. Many report a surreal experience, as if the tentacles are alive, trying to crawl back to the sea via your esophagus. While sanachi can be grilled, stewed, or stir-fried in other variations, the live version remains the ultimate test of courage and local authenticity. To fully experience this legendary Korean dish, head to Seoul's Noryangjin Fish Market, where you can witness the entire spectacle unfold: an octopus caught, sliced, and served all within minutes. For locals, it's a celebration of freshness. For outsiders, it's a psychological gauntlet. These dishes are not for the faint of heart. They challenge the very definition of food, push the boundaries of what we can stomach, and dare us to look dinner in the eye, sometimes literally. So, next time you're offered a bite of something unfamiliar, remember, in parts of Asia, food doesn't just nourish the body. It tests the soul. Would you dare to eat these? The world's most shocking dishes. When it comes to African cuisine, many dishes may seem unfamiliar, some downright shocking. But nothing prepares you for the sight of the mopane worm, a beloved delicacy in Zimbabwe. This is no ordinary worm. It's the plump caterpillar of the Gonambrasia bellina, better known as the emperor moth. Locals consume them in every imaginable way: raw, freshly plucked off trees, or sun-dried until crispy like potato chips. Some fry them with tomatoes, garlic, onions, peanuts, and chile. Others stir them into maize porridge, or grind them into powder to enrich broths, just like the precious cordyceps fungus of Asia. Far from being everyday fare, mopane worms are so prized, they're often reserved for sacred holidays like Christmas. But shocking dishes don't stop in Africa. In late 2019, one meal sent shivers across the globe: bat soup in China, thrust into the spotlight amid the outbreak of COVID-19. This dish, often made with little more than herbs and vegetables, is served with a whole bat, fur, wings, eyes, organs, all intact. Barely cleaned, the bat is simmered in a broth until tender. Though some hail it as rich in nutrients and a traditional cure for ailments from malaria to gonorrhea, it drew global ire when the Wuhan coronavirus outbreak was linked to wild animal markets selling such exotic fare. In Vietnam, there's a dish that can rival these horrors: nam pia, a traditional northwestern hill tribe stew made from the semi-digested intestinal content of herbivores. That's right, a thick, slimy brown-green sludge pulled straight from animal guts, spiked with bitter herbs, mac ken pepper, and other forest flavors. The smell? Piercing. The taste? Bitter, pungent, and nearly unbearable at first bite. But for those brave enough to push past that barrier, nam pia leaves behind a strangely addictive, savory richness. It's not just food, it's a test of will. And then there's Japan's notorious natto, fermented soybeans that look like mucus and reek of ammonia. Slimy, stringy, and sticky beyond belief, natto is often eaten with rice or sushi, mixed with mustard and soy sauce. It's been blamed for making people gag, but also credited for Japan's legendary longevity, thanks to enzymes like nattokinase and a treasure trove of vitamin K2. The stink is offensive, the texture worse, but for some, it's a lifelong obsession. Finally, we arrive in Australia, where the challenge gets visceral: live witchetty grubs, plump, squirming larvae that wiggle as they're eaten raw and alive. Would you have the guts to let one of these creepy crawlies writhe down your throat? Daring delicacies, the dark, raw side of world cuisine. Deep within the blistering deserts of Australia, crawling beneath the scorched earth, lies a creature so grotesquely plump it makes the Vietnamese duong duo look like a snack for amateurs: the witchetty grub. This monstrous moth larva, stretching up to 10 centimeters long, is a native delicacy. While in Vietnam, coconut worms are seen as bizarre and not everyone dares to try them, the witchetty grub is daily sustenance for many desert-dwelling Australians. To them, it's not just food, it's tradition. Rich in protein, bursting with oleic acid, a monounsaturated fat similar to omega-3, this wriggling grub is an ancient superfood. The Aboriginals often eat them alive, straight from the earth. No cooking, no seasoning. Just raw. The moment you bite down, its fatty insides explode in your mouth, thick, buttery, and alarmingly savory. Some say it tastes like a blend of roasted chicken, a hint of shrimp, and the nuttiness of almonds. Just the sight of it is enough to make your skin crawl. But if you think that's the limit of culinary extremity, brace yourself. Across the northern border, in the darker alleys of Chinese exotic cuisine, things escalate. Here, newborn mice, still pink, eyes shut, no more than 3 days old, are consumed alive, doused in honey or dipped into a specially concocted sauce. Believed to enhance male virility and vigor in bed, this delicacy is considered a tonic, a legacy passed down from ancient Chinese emperors obsessed with bizarre fetal feasts. These infant mice aren't just eaten, they're also drowned alive in jars of liquor. Yes, mouse wine is real. The younger the mouse, the more potent the drink. These tiny, twitching bodies are rinsed in alcohol, then sealed and fermented for up to 14 months. The result? A pungent, stomach-churning liquor said to cure ailments from fatigue to sexual dysfunction. And yet, the rabbit hole goes deeper. In Japan, another creature meets a cruel fate: the frog. In some restaurants serving frog sashimi, diners watch as live frogs are skinned, disemboweled, and served raw, still twitching. The heart is often removed last, still beating when it's offered on a silver dish. The rest is thinly sliced into translucent pieces of sashimi, while bones are simmered to make soup. The horror doesn't end there. Many report the frog's head still blinks, still jerks on the plate, as if watching you back while you chew on its flesh. Then comes the drink. In Peru, a beverage exists that blurs the line between ritual and nightmare: live frog smoothie. Tossed into a blender alive and mixed with herbs and juices, the frog is transformed into a frothy, green tonic gulped down in the name of health. For many years, the mountain dwellers of Arepa, Peru, have clung to a shocking tradition, drinking fresh frog smoothies to boost their health. Though modern science has yet to validate its effects, locals are fiercely convinced that raw frog meat strengthens their immunity against all diseases. Many even shun modern medicine altogether. The preparation of this one-of-a-kind, hair-raising drink is not for the faint of heart. Only frogs caught from the legendary Lake Titicaca are considered worthy. They're kept alive in glass tanks until a customer arrives and selects one. Then, the grisly ritual begins. The frog is skinned alive, blended with ingredients like aloe vera, honey, roots of the Adon plant, and a splash of alcohol to mask the overpowering stench of raw flesh. But this is far from the only barbaric delicacy in the world. In China, a dish known as fresh monkey brain is considered one of the most inhumane and horrifying cuisines ever conceived. Originating during the reign of Empress Dowager Cixi, it was reportedly served to impress foreign dignitaries. In a grotesque spectacle, live monkeys are restrained, and their skulls are cracked open so diners can scoop out and eat the brains while the animal is still alive. This dish is praised by some as a supreme tonic, yet its taste, a sickening blend of fresh blood and raw innards, is utterly revolting. Worse still, consumption of this disturbing meal has led to fatal consequences. The raw monkey brain is a breeding ground for deadly bacteria, capable of causing a neurodegenerative disorder similar to mad cow disease. Victims may suffer from memory loss, vision deterioration, depression, and ultimately, death. Are there even more twisted and horrifying dishes lurking out there, waiting to be exposed? If you know of any, share them with us. The world deserves to know.